at this point, LSU would take a cornerback off the streets. I mean, I guarantee you, and I don't want to be too harsh here, but you could probably get in your car and drive
an hour,
50 square miles in any direction and go find 2 starters.
I'll do it for him.
I mean,
it's like when the Saints signed Mike McKenzie off the street.
Who's my guy down at LCA?
Oh, Juwan Johnson.
Take him right now.
Can't get him fast enough.
Like, take him right now.
Wardell Mack, you want some playing time, son?
Wardell Mack
a far drive.
Start for LSU
tomorrow.
Last night, Saturday night, he'd have started. I mean, the problem. See, I think that's, and we're going to get to some of this Brian Kelly sound. The issue that LSU has from a defensive standpoint, what we talked about early, is that you can't fix their deficiencies. I think they found something in their front seven. Their front seven seems to be coming around. Hopefully, they now recognize, like, you have to play Deshaun Womack. Like, Deshaun Womack has now moved into this conversation like Whit Weeks. Like, Whit Weeks has now become this player, like, he cannot come off the field. We were talking a little bit about it on Sunday night on our Sunday show. Like, on Thursday, they were like, big announcement, Whit Weeks is starting on Saturday. Like, that shouldn't be a big announcement anymore.
Who else is starting?
I mean, that guy he's one of your best defensive players. The play he made on KJ Jefferson on the sideline when Jefferson threw the ball away out of the back of the end zone, it's not going to be on a highlight. You may not see it, but that's a true freshman tracking down a senior quarterback who was so in demand on Saturday. He was so in command of that game. I was so impressed with KJ Jefferson with the way that he just ran that game. That was probably the 2 best quarterbacks in the league. I know right now Spencer Rattler's playing at a very high level, but those are the 3. Mm-hmm. I mean, those are the 3 best quarterbacks in the league, and you had 2 of them on the same field on Saturday night. And KJ Jefferson is physically imposing, dude. I mean, that guy is a tank, and he is tracking towards LSU's sideline. Whit Weeks decides, it looked like he was kind of spying him on that goal line, and he just puts his head down and says, I'm going after him. And he leaps into him about 3 feet away from him. And you got to, what's KJ Jefferson weigh? 250?
He's got to be 250.
Solid 250. Jeez. Whit Weeks, like, spikes him in the chest and puts him flat on his back. I mean, like, it looks like it's probably been a while since KJ Jefferson's been hit like that when he's got his momentum moving. I mean, the way Weeks can close, the way he can run, the way he instinctively sees the game, Whit Weeks is a dog. Like, keep him out there.
Even like when he blitzed the other night, like when he blitzed like the A gap, the running back picks him up. Like, the running back makes a good block, and he just keeps fighting,
going.
keeps fighting.
He got knocked to the ground.
Exactly.
He got up, made the play.
Runs.
I mean, Herbstreit's making comment like, look at this freshman.
Yeah.
I mean, same thing goes for Deshaun Womack. When a guy is coming off the edge and flat backing SEC tackles as a true freshman and sacking KJ Jefferson without his helmet on, like, that's a starter. That's what starters look like in the league.
That's what playmakers look like.
I mean, like, that guy's got to play 65, 70% of the snaps. He just
does.
When they had Perkins and Womack on the edge, those 2 guys were meeting at the quarterback. Like, they were meeting in the backfield nearly every single time. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is, to me, those are the types of plays that you see and you're like, okay, keep those guys on the field. From a front 7 standpoint, I love Jordan Jefferson. Oh, yes. I love Deshaun Womack. I love Mekhi Wingo.
Effort.
I think yesterday we said, and look, again, let me drop this. I don't know the history, the family, the outside circumstances of what's going on with Mason Smith and the decision that ultimately I'd imagine he's going to make here at the end of the season on whether or not he's going to come back to school or whether or not he's going to go into the league. Because going into the season, there were a lot of projected or a lot of NFL mock drafts that had him as a first-round pick. And if you're a first-round selection, you have to have the discussion. You have to at least talk about it, think about it, make a choice to come back. At this point right now, from a pure football standpoint, just football in between the lines, again, I don't know the history, the background, the finances, all of that comes into those choices. And it's none of my business to tell Mason Smith what he should or shouldn't do. From a football standpoint, I believe he could make a ton of money if he came back next year. Because to me, he looks a little out of shape. Not a little, he looks out of shape.
Mm-hmm.
And rightfully so. The guy's coming off of an ACL injury, and only to follow that up with one of the worst football injuries that exist in a high ankle sprain that you suffer deep into fall camp while he's trying to work himself back into shape from the ACL injury. So
how big he
I expect him to be out of shape. Right? So, I mean, I'm not here to criticize his play. He's got to work himself back into that fighting weight, into that fighting mode, right? And he's a little bit, you can tell, I mean, he looks 3, 4, 5 games away from that, right? Where he's still taking on double teams and doing the things that we don't necessarily talk about, notice, show up in the stat sheet, but he's not affecting the game the way that Mason Smith can. Like, Mason Smith can wreck a game. And he's got to get back into fighting shape. He's got to get back into playing weight. He's got to get back to where he was pre-injury, and that's just going to take a minute. But he's still out there and he's battling. But as far as the effectiveness goes, the best defensive tackle at LSU right now is 99. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jordan Jefferson, his quick twitch, his ability to get off the ball, he's so quick in his first step. I mean, he was problem for an Arkansas offensive line that has a projected top 10 pick. That's the center. That's the thing also about, you know, you look at that matchup Saturday night between LSU's defensive line and Arkansas's offensive line. Get you his name here officially, but every single general manager in the NFL, every single head coach, every single
Scout.
decision maker in the NFL is going to be looking at that film for the matchup of Mason Smith and the center for Arkansas. I don't have his name here, but he is a projected top 5 pick in the NFL draft. And, you know, I mean, didn't work out so well for
Ricky Stromberg?
Bo Limmer? I think that's who it is.
I think it is Limmer.
55.
Yeah,
Bo
Limmer.
Bo Limmer. Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, that it just Limmer got the best of him, right? I mean, so I just think from a front seven standpoint, you got some things that you can work with. I mean, Greg Penn played a really nice game again. I mean, Greg Penn's solid, man.
Oh,
he's so solid in the sense of he just, you know what you get. I mean, every single time he's out there, you know he's going to be in the right place. He's going to be around the ball. He's going to be, you know, I mean, he's just doing his job.
Making plays in the pass game, put his hands up,
Right.
jumping.
Knockdowns,
Yeah.
tackles.
Because that man might still be running if he gets over his head.
That's right.
That was huge.
Well, that, you know, and I think that's KJ Jefferson. That's the beauty of playing with him. That was like Jamarcus. It was a scramble drill.
Yeah.
When he gets outside of the pocket, like, keep moving.
And he could just,
You know what I mean? Like, he could just throw it over the top of everybody.
He's a better thrower of the football than people think, too.
yeah.
Like,
He
because
is.
you see him in the way that they use it. I mean, he's as big as they get, man, but he's got to – I don't know if you can do that for
No.
12 games.
can't
Like,
do it.
they're running power.
I mean, like I don't think he's made it through a season.
No,
at Arkansas.
And I was talking to some Arkansas fans on Saturday there, and they're like, every game it comes out, whenever, like after the BYU game, they were asking, like, well, where was KJ Jefferson? I feel like he's not practicing. Like, well, he was banged up at practice all week. It's like, well, yeah, of course he's banged up every week. The way that they use him is like
Power right, power left.
they're probably running at practice. Like it's unfortunate because you don't have to use him that way. If they could get, I guess, Rocket Sanders back or their run game, but I mean, he can sit in the pocket and kind of deliver the football if you want to. But it seems like they're so headstrong on running him the way that they are that it's kind of easy for him.
Braden Swinson's another guy that I think, I mean, like, he can't come off the field.
It's like besides Ovia Gofu, every time Swinson, if it's Swinson and Perkins or if it's Swinson and Womack, they're meeting at the quarterback every play.
It's a party in the backfield.
Like every play, regardless of who's the tackles, whatever, they're meeting in the backfield.
There's just some personnel stuff that you're like, man, that looks great.
Yeah, it looks nice to
You
see
know?
LSU getting a little pressure back there.
And then from the, you know, like from the DB standpoint, I just think that there's some things that you either can't fix or you have to play guys like LaTerrence Welsh and you got to play guys like Antoine Stamps. those are the only two left, right?
Ashton Stamps.
Ashton Stamps. I'm sorry.
Hell, I'll take Antoine Stamps at this point.
Sounds like a player.
Sounds like a player, and there's certain players that when it gets to that point, whenever you see them trot out there, you're like, oh, what do they see that we don't see? When you're watching the football game, they must have different packages. It feels like a base package where it's insert X, Y, and Z. You're like, okay, but I was saying this on Friday. LSU has some just on defense. It feels like they're so limited. They have a base set where they have to trot out the three linebackers, and you're good with it. But when they start getting spread out, you can see the mismatches are out there, and that's how you convert 8 third downs, whatever. I mean, LSU, if you want to rag on the defense, I get it, you can. But if you go 4 for 11 instead of 8 of 11, it's a totally different football game. They just never shut the door.
Yeah,
like they had multiple opportunities to blow that team out.
Yep. They've got some matchup issues and some personnel.
They don't have enough players.
Right, where it becomes very obvious. I mean, you saw Arkansas really picking on some of the guys that were immediately putting into the game. And so, that's from a personnel standpoint, you just
sit and pray.
They got blessed on that Deuce Chestnut when he gave up that touchdown. They got blessed.
Deuce is fighting for his life out there.
One play that that's his first play he's in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like that is blood in the water. And I gotta believe that LaTerrence Welsh can get a series or two on this team with just purely the way that he plays special teams. And I don't want to fall victim for this, but I mean, for the spring he had and the guys he was guarding, LSU might have the best wide receiver room in the country right now. I mean, seriously, like you look at the production of wide receivers, there's not a 1-2 punch in America that outside of Washington can keep up with LSU. It feels like Ohio State maybe, but I mean, I watched them play on Saturday night. I mean, you can tell those guys are big playmakers, but they don't have anybody to really get them the ball consistently.
Sure. Malik Neighbors is third in the country in receiving yards right now.
But right now, probably the most feared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Him and the guy from Washington.
Huh?
Him and the dude from Washington. Yeah. Dunze.
So, I mean, I'd love to see Welsh get a series or two, just to see, man. And like I was telling Lloyd, and Lloyd recognized this as well. I don't want to speak for Lloyd, but I mean,
no, absolutely.
If you watch Welsh before the game, like he looks like he's gonna play.
Yeah. Feels like he's getting lied to.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's
a man
tough.
being lied to. I know a man when he's
you can look out in pregame and tell.
Who's not going to play?
Who's going to play and who's not going to play? I mean, usually there's like the unbuckled chin strap. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Kind of like,
where's my girlfriend?
Jogging a little bit, kind of eyes up in the stands. But I mean,
what's up, Coach Mulkey?
If you're tight,
I
mean, if you're locked and loaded and you're head bobbing and you're, I mean,
high-fiving,
yeah, right. I
thumping.
mean, you're jumping up and down. It's like,
put that man in.
I mean, let this guy roll, right?
Give him some.
I just don't know because, like you said, I just don't know what the issue is at this point because I'm not questioning the effort of any of the players. Zach Alexander's out there playing hard.
Yeah.
I just want to. You have to see something a little bit different if you're gonna. If this is how it's going to be, where last year you saw LSU be able to win defensive battles and you could rely on Jaden Daniels because he didn't turn the football over. This year, now you have a different version of Jaden Daniels where he can score 40 a game. It feels like, and now your defense is giving up 35 a game. Yeah. And you're. I don't want to say he's been a non-factor, but you're not seeing a lot of Harold Perkins making game-changing plays. Yeah. He gets the one sack at the end of the half, but I mean he had to. Yeah. You knew what they were doing, so you just let your horses run, and it feels like they need to do that a little bit more. And for a game where you had a quarterback like KJ Jefferson, it felt like that could have been another break, like a Harold Star turn game where he announces himself to the country again, and you're just not really seeing it the way that you feel like you should be. And from the position that he's playing and what he's been asked to do, I know it's hard to be like that star player we talked about, like how Tyron could change a game. He doesn't have that influence at the position he plays. He's having to play assignment football. But when the time calls for it, it might be just let him go do his own thing.
Yeah.
Because it's tough.
Thanks for tuning in to our premium LSU content right here on YouTube. If you want more of it, subscribe below.